Yeah.
Hey, I didn't call you old. I called you older than us.
Yes, I know. I saw that. I saw you. I got it. Yeah.
That means wiser and more experienced in some ways.
Okay, we need to do this. We've been talking a little bit about relationships. So I at the beginning of this stay at home was watching my normal nighttime TV, and I saw Jimmy Fallon, and he had the Korean group BTS in Grand Central Station. And to be honest, I was like blown away, like the performance itself. And they have like a band, and I mean, it was incredible. That got me started on, I never really paid attention to K-pop. I mean, even when we were living in Seoul, I didn't really pay attention to it because it wasn't relevant to me at that time, and I didn't have time for it. Do you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So I started watching all this stuff about them, and so my husband comes in and he goes, you're kind of like a teenager right now watching this boy band. And I said, yeah, I'm watching this, and I'm watching a lot of K-dramas, and I think part of me is like, what would it have been like had I been exposed to that as a teenager when I was developing my sense of self, right?
Yeah.
And it makes me then kind of pick apart or try and understand like how I got to this point, right? And like I always dated white men. And my mother actually told me once, because I was a huge fan of Michael Jackson and Prince. Those were the people that I saw as, like my equal in the entertainment industry when I was growing up. And my mom said to me, you cannot date a black man. Okay, because rural East Tennessee. So, which is so strange because she married a Puerto Rican man, but whatever.
And then had a Korean child, and
I
there are so
know.
many layers of interracial relationships.
I know.
That really just does show that there's like a racial hierarchy of
Mm-hmm.
like, and on one level, right, there's like white privilege, but
Right,
on another level, even being a person of color, there's just a privilege of being not black as well.
right, right. So anyway, that became a lesson for me. And so every time I dated anybody or saw anyone, it was always a white guy, right? And there was one Asian guy when I was growing up, and we were always paired. We were paired for square dances. We were paired for, anything where you had to be coupled in some
Weird
way.
dances.
Square dances, do-si-do. Anyway, so I found myself also like pushing Asian men away from me
Mm-hmm.
at every opportunity. I had a Chinese international student at my college. He's really the only Asian in my first couple of years there. And one day he brought me my driver's license that I had lost. He found me in the library and gave it back to me. And I was like, you're a creep. And so, but anyway, had there been, like this sort of example of Asian men in front of me, it would have made me feel like I was normal,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't feel normal. I guess
Yeah.
that's what I'm trying to say.
I think I really resonate with that. Well, parts of it. I mean, I didn't push Asian men away when I was a teenager or young because, well, mostly because there were none to push away. I grew up in a very white area. And I don't really remember anyone being that interested in me. So, and I really wasn't interested in dating either. But when I was about maybe middle school age, 13, I guess, I did come up with a condition, and I called it HAMS, HAMS, and it stood for Homely Asian Man Syndrome. And I think that
Homely.
yes. And I think that, because I didn't see any Asian boys my age or Asian men around in my community, and because Asian men are just now starting to get lead roles as romantic interests and have been typically portrayed in the media as like asexual or less sexually desirable, I think that what was deemed desirable and just like comfortable and what was familiar to me because I grew up in a white family in a white community
Right.
was whiteness. And so if I imagined myself in the future with anyone, it was like a white person. And I think that it really wasn't until college, until I did a lot of self reflection and racial healing through like race based classes and like American studies and created like diverse friend groups that I really realized how much internalized racism was in this like made up hams uh,
Mm-hmm.
syndrome. And it really was, I think, a process of learning how to love Asian features in myself, and then also like loving them and finding them desirable in other people as well.
Right. Very well said. Hams, huh?
Yeah. It's so embarrassing now.
I know. Like, what would it have been like had that had been there, and who would I have ended up with? You know what I mean? Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I think I reflect on this a lot more now because, I've been married for 25 years. I've done the dating, I've done and it's I'm not the person that my husband married, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not,
Yeah.
because I was that perfect adoptee, perfect girl when he married me.
Well, I think that another thing, you know, you came to your adoptee identity and like racial, like ethnic background in like Korea, and like started incorporating that Korean culture like later in
Mm-hmm.
life and after you had already been married for a while.
Yeah.
And so I think especially given those situations, you're right, like you're not the same person that he married when you were young. And I think something that I'm really interested in is since my younger Chinese adoptee cohort grew up with more access to like culture camps, or like it was more common for us to go on like heritage tours with our family of China. Um, I wonder if more parts of at least the racial identity might be like in formation a little bit earlier so that it is less of like a stark difference. Although I think that when you've been with someone for 25 years, no matter what your racial like makeup or background, there in some ways you aren't the same. And hopefully that's a good thing. It means that you've been growing and having experiences and doing things.
Yeah, yeah. Now, it's been a tough 5 years, 6 years now. Right now, I feel more comfortable in my skin than I ever have.
Mm-hmm.
But it also has, like I said, I'm not that perfect person anymore. I'm always late, as you
Yes, you
know.
are.
I'm always late. I used to be super punctual. I used to carry around this really big file of facts, like date book. I knew everything that was going on, and now I don't even know where my car keys are right now. So I there's a part of me that envies this generation,
Mm-hmm.
because they get that validation
Yeah.
that who they are and how they appear is a beautiful thing, right?
Well, I think that we're still working on that. We're not quite there yet.
Mhm.
And we also do have to go beyond culture camps, beyond a once a year lunar like celebration as defining like bringing culture to adoptees. Yeah, so I think that there are definitely things that have changed for the better and hopefully have improved since the previous generation of adoptees, but
Yeah.
there's still a long way to go.
Yeah. Well, I mean, think about it. My introduction to Korean culture really was the television show MASH.
Mm.
You know, that's what I saw, and that's what I thought Korea was.
Yeah, I remember looking at pictures of China in like magazines, and we had a couple of films. And I also remember when I got to maybe like later elementary school, looking at pictures of China and Nanjing, specifically my hometown, in like on the computer.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, there's just like, it's a strange feeling though, looking at just two-dimensional photographs and wanting to feel some sort of belonging or familiarity among those street scenes,
Yeah.
and really feeling almost, just like a longing, but mystery and
Yeah.
unknowing all of that.
I kind of liken it to feeling homesick, but not
Hmm.
realizing you're feeling homesick. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do feel like, that's what I feel when my feet plant in Korea. Like it's as though the sounds, the smells, all of it is like a blanket, of comfort.
Mm.
Even though I don't have any memories of my time there before I was adopted, you know, I think
Yeah.
my body does, but mentally I don't. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I remember when I studied abroad in China, um, and I was thinking on the plane before I landed. I remember writing in my journal like my feet touched the ground and my heart felt at home, and that's like, this is the story I want to tell. And I think in a lot of ways, I did feel at home, but in a lot of ways I really felt uncomfortable too. Um, and I think that's one of the hard parts of being an adoptee, is wanting to find home and wanting to feel um, like your home
Hmm.
in two countries, but not necessarily fully feeling that in either place.
Right. Yeah. A lot to ponder. Thanks,
Yes.
Grace. We'll
No
have to
problem.
see each other when, you know, this all.
When the pandemic is over.
Yeah. Yeah. I miss you. And
Miss you too.
it's been nice to see you again.
You too.
Yeah. We'll have to get the guys together.
Yes, and then we can continue our interracial couple conversation,
Oh
get
yeah,
a
yeah.
male perspective,
Oh yeah, that wouldn't be bad actually.
get a non-adoptee perspective of being with an adoptee.
Yeah, that would be really interesting, eh? Hmm. Well, I'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye.